In this video, I'm going to talk about how to upgrade an IOS on a Cisco router. So I have a topology here, a simple topology, basically a router that is connected to a switch. In this case, switch is a layer 2 switch, and it's a port going to TFTP server is configured with port fast, spanning tree port fast, just for the spanning tree to converge faster. And of course the TFTP server. I can actually just remove this because we're not gonna upgrade the switch, the IOS on the switch. We're just gonna upgrade the IOS on the router in this video. So let me show you the configuration of the router. Because before we actually perform an IOS upgrade, we need to make sure that the router can ping the server, or vice versa. So I'm gonna ping the server. In this case, the server IP address is that IP address, so I can ping it. So let's go to, let me show you the configuration of this port here. Gig 1/0/2. What's the port? Okay, let's just do this. So here, spanning tree port fast, and the server is configured, like I said, with that IP address, and the subnet mask, of course, same as the subnet mask with the router. Of course, they have to be on the same network, and the default gateway is this, the router IP address. And before the video, prior to recording this video, I actually verified that I can ping the router, and I can ping it. That's why you see some output here. So let's go to the and of course, in this case, this is our TFTP server, and we're gonna upgrade. Let's go back to the router and do a show version. So show version. So this is the current IOS on the router, located in flash 0, and we're gonna upgrade that with a new IOS. We're gonna upgrade it with using a new IOS. So let's compare the IOS. So here we're gonna actually, so C2900 universal K9, C2900 universal K9. Where is it? Here. So we're gonna use this iOS because this is newer than the one on the router. As you can see, this one is 151 and this one is 155, right? So let's go to our to my notes here. Um, Upgrading the iOS, the Cisco IOS. So we've got 5 steps. So step 1, obtain the iOS image from Cisco, usually by downloading the iOS image from cisco.com using HTTP or FTP. In step 2, place the iOS image someplace that the router can reach. Locations include TFTP or FTP servers in the network, or a USB flash drive that is then inserted into the router. Step 3, issue the copy command. This is the actual command and that we're going to use later from the router, copying the file into the flash memory that usually remains with the router on a permanent basis. Routers usually cannot boot from the iOS image in a USB flash drive. And there are actually 3 common methods to copy files outside a router. Copy files outside a router. So number 1 is TFTP or Trivial File Transfer Protocol. Number 2, FTP File Transfer Protocol. And number 3, SCP Secure Copy Protocol. This is the newest one. And 1 and 2 have been the ones that are popular up to these days. And number 4, verifying iOS code integrity with MD5. And this is a sample command here. And number 5, load the iOS, the new iOS. And we have some summary steps here for loading the new iOS on the router. Here we're gonna talk about this a little later. And of course, the references that I'm using are these. So let's go back to our topology. So now we can actually start upgrading the iOS. So step 1 is already completed. We're not gonna do this, or I'm not gonna demo this. And also step 2 is actually already completed also, because we're just the iOS in our case is already in the server. And we can start at number 3. So issue the copy command from the router, copying the file into the flash memory that usually remains with the router on a permanent basis. So we're gonna start at step 3. So let's go to the router, and before I do that, so this is our current iOS. This is the same as in this output here. So the command is copy TFTP flash enter, and so address or your name of remote host. This is referring to the TFTP server. The IP address of the TFTP server is 10.1.1.100, and the source file is, this is the iOS, the new iOS. So I'm gonna do a Control-C and paste that in here. And destination, file name, so I'm just gonna hit enter. It's by default, I mean, if I hit enter here, it's gonna use this file name here. So it's copied that iOS into the flash So let's verify that. So now we have two codes. So this is the one that we copied from that TFTP server. So step 4, I think this version of Packet Tracer doesn't support verify command, because when I do verify, it doesn't recognize it. But you can just do verify. This is a sample command here, just to verify that the code that you copied from the Cisco website is actually the correct one. So we're gonna skip step 4. So we're gonna do step 5, load the new iOS. So like I said earlier, we've got some summary steps here. So we're just gonna follow these steps. So dir, this is another way of showing the or maybe not. You can just do a dir. So this is step 1. So, and these are the codes, and we're gonna do config t step 2 here, or I'm actually gonna do this first. Do show run. So we're not seeing this boot system command, or actually I can do this boot. So there's no boot system command in the running config. So I can just step 3 is done. Step 4, it says here it's optional, because if you have let me show you the contents of the flash. It says here optional, because if you have one, at least from what I understand, is that if you have one iOS, and that iOS is the one that you want to load when the router boots, when you reboot the router, then you don't have to specify the boot system command here. But just to make sure that for you to make sure that the router is going to load the new iOS, I think it's better to just do a boot system command. So I'm going to do that now. Boot system flash flash, and I'm gonna copy this. This is our new iOS. And number 5, repeat to specify the order in which the router should attempt to load any backup systems images. So just in case for some reason the new iOS is corrupted, we have to specify a second boot system command, or boot system flash, and the older or the current version of the iOS, just to make sure that the as a backup, we need to do that. We need to do step 5 as a backup iOS, and it's done. You have to exit here and show version. Show version. So I guess it's just saying that we need to verify the current version So that's done. Step 6. If the last digit in the configuration register is 0 or 1, proceed to step 9. However, if the last digit in the configuration register is between 2 and 5, proceed to step 12. So, okay, so that's the purpose of this show version here, step 7. So basically, we need to double check that configuration register is not, or the configuration register is actually uh, between 2 and F. So in case of the router, it should be, the last digit should be 2, and in case of the switches, the last digit should be F. So in our case, configuration register is this value, and the last digit is number 2. So as it says here, we can proceed to step 12. So we're gonna skip these steps here. So we're just gonna do a copy, run, start. Copy, run, start. Yes. And number 8, or these steps here are very important because I want to reiterate these steps, because if the configuration register is either 0 or 1, the iOS, when the router reboots, the iOS is not gonna, the router is not gonna load the new iOS. So we need to make sure that configuration register is correct. So we need to remember that configuration register is between 2 and F. So we are at number 12, copy, run, start. So that's done, and reload. This is step 13. So I'm gonna actually before I do a reload, I'm actually gonna go to our topology here, because in real world you need to make sure that you have a console connection to the router before you do a reload, because you're gonna lose connection to the router. So I'm gonna connect to the router via console. So here I'm gonna do a reload, confirm. So didn't ask us to save the configuration, but if it did, we just have to enter no, and the router has rebooted. Show enable show version. Configuration register is still correct. So now the router is using the newer code or newer iOS. So let's do a show version and pipe the image. So that is the new image that we told the router to reload, and show flash. And this is the old iOS, and yeah, we're done. So yeah, that's basically that's pretty much it on how to upgrade an iOS on a Cisco router. So thanks for watching.